And a good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming here on this forecast discussion. We're here, of course, to talk about the impending snow that's coming Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. Parts of the Northeast are really going to get walloped here with some snow. And if I just start out first by talking about what's going on right now, we do have a pretty well-defined warm front that's just to our southwest, I guess you could say. State College has only been stuck in the 40s here so far today, but the warmer air is not far away at all. It was 60s before down in Johnstown and Altoona, and we'll probably get in on 50s later tonight, and then we'll probably start to cool it down tomorrow when we see a cold front cross. So just looking at the mesoanalysis here, so you can see we're in a pretty good warm advection regime right now. We got some rain off to our west. It's going to be moving in here shortly. The front itself, if I show the surface here, the front itself, the cold front, is still back off to the west in northwest Ohio, right there where that kink in the isobars are there. So that will probably move through overnight tonight. So by the time we wake up tomorrow, we should see our temperatures cooling off, and then that's going to set the stage for our developing storm system off to the west. So we'll start off here by looking at the 18Z NAM. So the front will cross tonight sometime after about 6Z. So again, by the time we wake up tomorrow, it should be losing its punch, so just a few showers left over, but then that'll be moving off to the east. The baroclinic zone will then set up to our south so that that incoming shortwave from the west will be able to feed on that and then develop the snow. And before I go any further, let's take a look at where our features are right now. So we're having the first piece to the puzzle is still back here. So this little guy, you could see the snow developing. That's going to be slowly moving eastward as we head into the day tomorrow. And then we also have another piece of energy that's going to come in from the north, and that's going to supply the cold air for this system tomorrow night, and especially into Thursday as we really start to see this thing develop. So just showing you the vorticity map here. You can see where the positive vorticity advection is right now here in the Rockies. So that's our one piece of energy that's coming in. You can see that light band of snow coming out ahead of it, and that will slowly again move tomorrow afternoon towards the Ohio Valley and our neck of the woods. And then, of course, there's that feature from the north, that larger trough that's going to merge with that and lead to our snowstorm come Wednesday night and Thursday. So let's go back to our model here. So the baroclinic zone sets up to our south. That thin light band of snow that I was just talking about in the Rockies, that's where it'll be tomorrow. Somewhere around Ohio will probably start out as light snow. Now, right after this is when we'll start to see more phasing of the northern branch and the southern branch. And you can see that that shortwave that comes out of the Rockies really starts digging tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. So once this thing encounters that baroclinic zone to our south, that's when it's really going to start to organize, and you're going to start to see a surface reflection develop. So that low at the surface is going to develop somewhere in the mid-Atlantic, and you can see the precipitation really starts to flare up as well as that initial little wave moves through. We'll see that main precipitation developing just to our southwest. And then as tomorrow evening progresses, that short wave is just going to strengthen as we see even another little wave here developing. That's going to dig this whole thing and make it more amplified, which of course will strengthen it. So you can see by the time we head into past midnight Wednesday night, we have pretty heavy precipitation rates extending as far north as State College, maybe even I-80, and heavy especially as you head down south towards perhaps Altoona, east towards Harrisburg. So certainly an area that we're watching, as again, that looks to be the prime location right now of the heaviest snow as we head into Wednesday night. And you could see that by the time we wake up on Thursday, this thing continues to deepen off the coast here as it starts to move northeast. And then the precipitation as well starts to move east with it. So portions of New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, even into southern New England, then that's when they're going to get on the action. It looks like during the day on Thursday as that system moves in their direction. You can really see how organized this trough becomes. So after our system moves off to the east, you can see we have some very cold air coming in behind it. So that's going to also lead to some snow squalls by the time we head into Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. And of course, I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail here in just a few minutes after I look at some more data for our storm tomorrow night and early on Thursday. So this is the SREF plumes that we're looking at here. for State College. And what we're looking at here is liquid total QPF that's going to fall from the storm. And this is as of the 15Z run. So this should come in, the latest storm should come in as we're doing this briefing right now. But just to give you an idea, this is a total of 0.8 inches of liquid. Now, if you subtract any rain that we're going to get tonight, that still comes out to be about over a ½ inch of liquid from this. So with our snow ratios tomorrow night and early Thursday, probably on the order of 13 to 15 to 1, you multiply that by a half, and you're talking about possible several inches of snow. Some locations in central and eastern Pennsylvania getting upwards of 8 or maybe even higher. And just to show you the snowfall here from the plumes, you can see we really kind of got two little branches here. We have a bunch of members that are having us getting less snow, something like 2 to 4 inches. And then you have this, in the last few runs especially, this package here of members that have us getting well over 6 inches of snow. So, you know, there's still a lot of uncertainty with the ensembles, but it has certainly been getting higher and higher in terms of the snowfall within the last few runs. And just to see if it has come in yet, it has not. So we'll check back again before we end here. And me and Paul were looking at this before we started the forecast discussion. This is the SREF NMB, another ensemble suite here, and it looks like through early Thursday, if you look at the lowest two panels here, this is the control that gives us upwards of 3 inches. I think that's 3 inches if we're looking at our color code here, 3 to 4 inches here in State College. The sweet spot being just east of us and southeast of us towards Harrisburg into eastern Pennsylvania, and then the mean of the ensembles has us, you know, getting a little bit less. So State College getting somewhere around 3 inches, and then a lot less as you head southeast. Now, not totally buying what that mean has here. I think portions of eastern Pennsylvania really will get good snow out of this. But if we look at the ARW, the SREF ARW, this one has really caught our attention, especially in this last run. If you look at these colors here, probably a little overdone. I think we can all kind of agree to that. But, you know, it pretty much gives the whole state a lot of accumulating snow as we head into Wednesday night and early Thursday. So this variety of maps that I'm showing you just kind of goes to show that we do still have uncertainty when it comes to this storm and the exact snowfall amounts and how far north the heaviest snow will come. Let's see what I have next here. Okay, so this is, if we look synoptically at what's going to happen, so we're looking at 500 millibars here, and this is 500 millibar heights and vorticity. So I'm playing the NAM through now Wednesday night. So if you notice a couple of things, that initial wave that I was talking about earlier in the briefing that's out to the Rockies, it starts digging tomorrow, and then we're going to start to get influence from this little guy up here too. That will make the whole system dig more, and then we're going to get influence from the main upper trough as well that will supply the cold air. So we're really looking at several pieces of energy that are going to combine here to produce a lot of snow. And that's afternoon Thursday when this thing is at its strongest off the coast. And you can see that it's really amplified here, and you've got the cold air as well being provided by that upper level trough with positive vorticity advection well out ahead of the center of the trough axis there. So, you know, it's looking good dynamically, and, you know, everything seems to be coming together. It's all just a matter of placement of this thing. Let's see what else I have. I already showed that. Let's look at the GFS. So this has been a whole other story in and of itself. The GFS was kind of lacking on snow for a while, including the Canadian, but I don't know who looks at the Canadian or why we should look at the Canadian, and the European as well. So the global models as a whole within the last 24 hours have come into a lot better agreement when it comes to how much snow we're going to get out of this. And this is the GFS parallel. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what's going to eventually replace the GFS. So this is our future model that we're going to have to be looking at here. And this one has been a lot more consistent than the GFS operational, the one that we're the one that we're using now. So this is 12Z Thursday. You can see the heavy band of precipitation, and it's been like this for the last few runs, really. So we'll take you back. This is looking at 6Z. This is looking at 0Z. This is looking at 18Z. So overall, it has the storm pretty well, except it's shifted it a little bit northwest within the last few runs, and that kind of goes with what every other model was doing. So that's the GFS parallel. If we look at the GFS, and you could see how that one has changed a lot in the last 24 hours. So there's 12Z Thursday. We'll start back here at 6Z Thursday. So precipitation advancing its way into Pennsylvania, and then the last few runs You can see before this is yesterday's 18Z run, so it really didn't consistently have us getting moderate snow here until last night when it finally caved. You can see this is what 0Z last night, so it really didn't have us getting much, and then out of nowhere today it brings in this swath of precipitation as it just kind of moved that low northwestward and also made it a little bit stronger. That was also interesting. The European did the same thing, if not even more dramatically, and as well as the Canadian. So it's starting to kind of all come together now, but we do still have this thing is still wobbling a little bit, as we've seen with some of the 18Z runs with a little bit more of a nudge now southeast. So we'll see what happens at 0Z, but looking at the ARW and the NMB, it is looking promising for those of us that do want snow here in State College. So again, just to summarize, we're looking at probably a 6 to 9 hour window here of some moderate, perhaps heavy snow here in central Pennsylvania. I think it will probably start between the hours of 9 o'clock and midnight tomorrow night here, and then ending around the time that we wake up, and that is the synoptic snow that ends. Then we start to turn our attention towards the lake-enhanced snow that's coming our way Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, and that's what I wanted to talk about next. And then after this, we can obviously start our back and forth discussion. Real quick, these are the advisories and watches currently being put out by State College. Winter storm watch just to our southeast, so State College is not included in this. Neither is Altoona or Johnstown, but southeast towards Harrisburg and Philly, you are included in the watch, as well as portions of New Jersey and I believe even New York. So they're under the gun right now. So now we're going to switch gears and talk about Thursday evening real quick. Let's pull up the GFS, or actually I think the NAM would look a little better here. We'll pull up the simulated radar here for Thursday, and you'll really see that the models are quite aggressive with some lake effect snow squalls, as you can see there by the darker blues and the banding here across central and western Pennsylvania. And, you know, lake effect snow doesn't usually show up all that easily on the model. So this goes to show you that we're probably going to be dealing with some very heavy snow squalls. And I think what I'm about to show you really tells the story. This is the forecast skew-T sounding for, this is a 0Z on Friday. So this is Thursday evening here. And please direct your attention here to the lowest few hundred millibars here. What we have is a nearly dry adiabatic profile all the way up past 700 millibars and very steep lapse rates, obviously. And if you look at where our surface temperatures will be, we're looking at low 20s for temperatures, and then going all the way, cloud tops going down negative 30 degrees Celsius. And I mean, that if that doesn't scream snow squalls, I really don't know what does. And you have northwest winds, so we're going to have a direct feed off the lake. We're not only going to have northwest winds, but they will be gusty northwest winds. So we're probably going to get a double or triple fetch from the lakes here, and that will provide the moisture, even here in Center County, I think, to get some good lake effect snow. And also directing your attention here to the dendritic growth zone, which is here between -12 and -18 degrees Celsius. And unfortunately, we don't have Buffkit on here, but even the NAM was showing that we're probably going to have some pretty good vertical motion within that layer. So don't let that surprise you Thursday evening. Wouldn't rule out an inch or two of snow additionally, even here from the lake effect snow. And that will obviously add on to what we get tomorrow night and early on Thursday. Let's see if I had anything else to show. This is pretty much the same thing, just a different website. I guess we can now open the floor for back and forth discussion, and if we can maybe talk about snow amounts and what we can come to a consensus on for our storm tomorrow night. Yes, Mr. Paul.
Thank you for that discussion, Addis. I was just wondering what exactly we are expecting for ratios with the system tomorrow, and what ratios do you think we can expect for the snow squall potential on Thursday?
Yes, very good question, Paul. And I kind of touched on this, but I didn't really get too into it with the skew-T here. So let me pull up from, let me get the peak of the event here. So this is valid. Okay, so this is right where it's going to be snowing heaviest here in State College. So what we see here is kind of a more convective, low-level profile. You can see we have steep. So throughout the course of this snow tomorrow night and early Thursday, we're going to have a cooling column. Okay, so as the event goes on, our ratios are going to rise. So initially, we might see something like maybe 10 to 1, 12 to 1, maybe some melting at first. But once the precipitation rates start picking up, that's when we'll start to see dynamic cooling kick in, and cold air advection will cool our column. So what is important here is to note that again, the dendritic growth zone here, and unfortunately, I don't have the plot of the upward vertical motion. But what we actually have is, and I've noticed this by looking at sounding software, is right where this dendritic growth zone will be is when we'll have a peak of upward vertical motion. And what that will allow is for very efficient snowfall production. So you're going to get some very good dendrites out of this thing, again, especially in the heaviest snow bands here in Point Southeast. And as this falls, then it's going to fall into air that is warmer than -10 degrees Celsius. So that means you're going to start to get riming, which will allow for aggregates to form. So you really should start to get some bigger, wet, the gorilla snowflakes, as we call them, during the peak intensity of this event. So based on that, I think our ratios will probably be on the order of 13, maybe 15 to 1 tomorrow night, especially towards the latter half of the event. In terms of our lake effect snow, our snow squalls, that could be up to upwards of maybe 20 to 1, just with how cold our column will be. And for those of you that are tuning in at home, when we talk about snow ratios, that basically what we mean by that is the fluff of the snow. So as you have higher snowfall ratios, 15, 20 to 1, that's where you're going to have very low amount of liquid in it, and that means you're going to have more fluffy snow rather than if your snow ratio was more like 8 to 1 or 10 to 1. So we're talking about a wet snow, but also it's going to be more of a dry snow, especially as we head into Thursday when we really start to cool things off. So just to show you again that sounding from 0Z on Friday. Right here. So again, with those kind of lapse rates, I mean, our ratios will probably, and with how cold we will be at the surface, I mean, you're barely above -10 degrees Celsius. So you're not even going to have any kind of riming with this thing. So probably 20 to 1, I'd say, with this Thursday evening. And, you combine any liquid that's, I don't know, 0.05, 0.1, you could be talking about a couple inches where the band's set up. But that will be short-lived as we start to see high pressure building back in after midnight Thursday night. So unfortunately, for those of us that love snow, most of this will be gone by the time we head into this weekend when we warm up substantially. Mr. Cohen.
I was wondering if you Thank you. Well, mixing normally doesn't seem to be an issue for us here in State College. I was wondering if you could speak about that areas south of us, what the potential for mixing looks there, and how that'll impact their total snowfall.
Yeah, so as Seth mentioned, we will stay all snow here in State College, but I think as you head further south and east is when you'll have the better chance of getting some mixed precipitation, as temperatures at the surface will be well into the 30s, especially at the start of the event. So obviously what that's going to do is cut down on snow as there will be a point as you travel southeast where snow will be limited just because of that mixed precipitation. And I'll pull up the NAM here just so we can get an idea of where our or how cold we'll be at the surface. So, this is looking into Wednesday night. I mean, we have sub-zero temperatures at 850 millibars. So your column is going to be cold, really, even as you head down towards Philly. But if you look at the surface here, it's kind of tough to see. But those are above freezing temperatures in central and southern New Jersey and far southeastern Pennsylvania. So I think for those areas, you might start out as some rain, maybe a mix of rain and snow. But the question is, when the heavy precipitation starts, how cold do we get? Because I mean, this looks pretty heavy, and if the dynamic cooling is strong enough, then you might be cold enough at the surface to support a very heavy and wet snow. And if we play this through, you'll see that the system becomes more organized, so it starts to pull in some colder air from the northwest. So, I mean, based on this, I mean, it looks like most of New Jersey gets a pretty good swath of heavy snow Thursday morning from this thing. So in terms of mixed precipitation, I mean, I'd say initially, it's possible as you head to southeast towards Philly, but thing strengthens, and as you start to get heavier precipitation rates, I think everybody, except if maybe you're right along the coast towards Delaware, will remain mostly snow for this. Mr. Paul again.
When you loop through the NAM there, that kind of reminded me of something when with the streamlines. As the storm intensifies, I noticed that the winds picked up quite substantially with the streamlines. What kind of wind impacts are we looking for, particularly for southeastern Pennsylvania? And do we think power outages are possible?
Yeah, so with that kind of heavy, wet snow and the wind, I mean, you certainly worry about power outages, especially in southern New Jersey, because again, that is some pretty heavy, wet snow that's going to fall. And if we look at what the NAM has here, let me turn this back a little bit. So yeah, as Paul mentioned, if you look here in the lower left panel, you can really see that the winds kick up after we head, it looks like past midnight tomorrow night. And that's when, again, the system really starts to deepen and get more organized. And, you know, but based on the colors there, you can see right along the coast, you could see winds of upwards of 30 knots. And that is, I believe, sustained winds, if correct me if I'm wrong. So that's sustained winds of 30 knots along the coast. I mean, that's 35, 40 miles per hour. And, you know, gusts could be even higher than that. So I would certainly be concerned about places along the coast that are going to get that heavy, wet snow with that strong wind. Now, according to the NAM, we don't have as strong of winds here in eastern Pennsylvania, just because the center of the storm will be a little too far to the east for the pressure gradient to really tighten here and in eastern Pennsylvania. But, you know, certainly I think in New Jersey, especially along the coast, we'll see concerns for some power outages during the heavy, wet snow. Matt. Oh, sorry. I thought you were raising your hand. Yes. Well, we'll have to reach you back there. I think we're good.
With how warm the temperature is going to be at first, especially in the southern part of the state, do you think that's going to affect whether the snow actually sticks, at least at first? Like as far as affecting snowfall totals?
Yes, as I kind of mentioned, I think that at first, the more southeast you go, when this thing initially starts, you could have some mixed precipitation, or with the temperatures still being in the 30s, you'll probably have melting. So, you know, during the first hour, 2 hours that the snow begins to fall, you probably won't have that much sticking. But again, once the heavier precipitation rates kick on in, you know, forget about it. We're going to be cold enough for all snow. Also to note, the storm is going to take place during the overnight hours, so sun isn't really going to, well, not really, it isn't going to make an impact in terms of any melting. So, you know, after 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, you know, we're going to get colder, snow's going to pick up. So really, other than the first hour or maybe two, we really should see mostly snow, and it will start to stick fast. Mr. Paul again.
I was just checking Doug Simonian's website, and it looks like the new SREFs are out.
Okay, well, let me do the honors of looking at them now. And based on the smile that Paul has on his face, I think we're looking at something nice here. Okay, so if I click on 21Z, oh, maybe I need to refresh it. Let's do that. Okay, we're going to zoom into.
Clones will not be out, but it should be out on Doug Simonian's website.
Oh, okay. Can you direct me to that, Doug?
Sure.
Doug
Simonian's model website.
Doug
It should pop up.
Simonian.
Yep.
Am I spelling? Okay, there it is. Okay.
Simonian model.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Rutgers link to SREF.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you scroll down.
So we're looking at the 21Z run.
Yep.
So which one do I want to click here?
21Z Northeast SREF.
24-hour?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't think I clicked the right link.
24 hours out, and you go for the yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Wait, so this is the 21Z SREF, and wow, this is exciting. This is exciting. Of course, we still have to subtract out any rain that we get tonight. Boy, I really wish that we didn't have rain tonight that was contaminating this, because I would be freaking out right now if I saw that. But I mean, even so, I mean, we're not looking at more than 2/10 of an inch of rain overnight. So that is a bullseye of 3/4 of an inch of liquid over central and eastern Pennsylvania. And so this is from 21Z. This is 48 hours out. So can we look at what this thing has for tonight, and then we could subtract out?
This is 24
So there's nothing from, okay. All right. So now I'll start freaking out. This is 0.75 inches of precipitation. This is when the snowstorm begins. So again, just to clarify, I was wrong. This does not include any rain from tonight because we were looking past 24 hours. Duh. Wow. So, can we look at how this thing, so let's compare that to the 15Z, 48 hours? Or should it be more like 54? Wow. So that is jog northwest. So that is the run from earlier today. And you could see the light blue color there in eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey has expanded to central and eastern Pennsylvania. So it certainly seems like our plumes are on board with a pretty good snowfall here. As I'll go back again. And that is, wow, that is a sweet spot, right? Probably just southeast of State College still, but certainly we would get in on some snowfall there. And I mean, with the snow ratios, that thing is printing out what, 10, 12 inches. So we're not gonna speculate that that's what we'll get, but certainly possible that we get some heavier snow amounts here in central PA. And just speaking of numbers, what do you think as a group here and as some very experienced forecasters here in the crowd, what are we thinking here in State College in terms of snow? Now, what I had earlier today was 3 to 6 inches. I think I'm still going to stick by that, but certainly would not be surprised if we see, closer to 5 or 6 if this kind of solution pans out. 3 to 6 State College, probably more just to our southeast, possibly 6 to 10 or more as you head towards Harrisburg, Lewistown, places like that. What is everybody else's thoughts on the snow amounts? Where is the heaviest going to fall and why? Mr. Matt Ludwig?
I'm just thinking, based on this SREF, if we can get a heavier band to set up, I wouldn't be shy to say 4 to 8. But if we do not get, maybe a heavy band to set up over State College, we may only see maybe 3 to 6 or somewhere around that. I think a lot of it's going to depend on some of the mesoscale features, where they set up and how strong they are.
Yeah, and that's something that we're all going to have to watch tomorrow. When this thing starts going, we're going to have to watch the little mesoscale features and where the heaviest bands will set up, where you get the strongest frontogenesis, stuff like that. Did you have a question? Okay, no. Okay, anybody else want to, real quick?
I might as well chime in.
Sure.
Here in State College, it probably isn't going to be as much. Again, it's going to be really close, probably just a few miles either way, but I'd say about 6 inches max here, probably 4 to 6. But if you go, that's where I'm predicting the heaviest is going to be. There could be as much as 8 inches in some spots there.
Yeah, that's a very good prediction, I think. And I think right now there's a bit of hesitance to pull the trigger and say, based on this, that we're going to get 4 to 8 or 6 to 10 inches, just because we have to see more models come into play with this. But certainly a nice little snowfall on the way here for many of us tomorrow. Alex.
I think two of the models that we haven't really talked about yet will be coming in here in a few hours, but the UK Met and the European model have also been following that northwest trend, and it'll be interesting to see what they show here at 0 UTC. Again, this system is being sampled even more and more. So I think if those two models do show another northwest movement, as these refs are continuing to do here, I would think we would start to be being a bit more serious about possibly posting winter storm watches within the next 24 hours here, further north in places in central PA. So again, that 4 to 8 inches is looking pretty good. If State College can cash in on that higher end, that's going to be because of these northwest trends going up to this event. Usually you want to see models kind of doing that window washing effect. I kind of saw a little bit of that, the 18Z, GFS, and the NAM. But again, if the UK and the European and these refs do not continue to kind of maybe push back a little bit in that northwest trend, if they keep showing that trend northwest, then I think you might want to start pushing those totals a little bit upward.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, agreed. And of course, we're 24 hours out now, so there really isn't much time for things to change. And and as Alex mentioned, we really started to see these global models kind of come into agreement, especially the UK Met and the European, when that first shortwave, that little piece of energy off to the west, when that arrived on coast, you started to get better sampling because you don't have much of that over the ocean. So the models are sampling that better and able to predict it better. So I think that's why there was a big change from last night at 0Z to 12Z this morning, because that is exactly the time that that piece of energy off to the west arrived onto the west coast of the United States. And as Steve was mentioning to me earlier, that big trough from the northwest. It's coming in from Canada as it enters the United States overnight tonight. That's going to get better sampled too. So, I certainly think by 12Z tomorrow morning, we should have a good answer as to what to expect here and if there is any changes. Does anybody else have anything to chime in? I know we've gone, almost a half hour here, but I think we had a pretty good discussion as what could be our biggest snowfall of the season so far here in State College. Kind of sad. Yeah, we had 3.8 inches on a storm. What was that? 2 weeks ago? Was that last week? Last week. So we might beat that. We'll see. I think that we certainly have a chance. And to our friends that are watching us southeast of State College, you're probably going to get an even better chance of beating 3.8 inches of snow tomorrow. So, Andy? We're getting a little tangled here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't Harrisburg not even received an inch yet?
Yeah, I think I saw something tweeted. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, Harrisburg is in a severe drought right now when it comes to snow. So I don't know does anybody know Harrisburg's yearly average, Paul?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I would figure that it would be about probably between, if I had to take a guess, probably between 25 and.
Okay. So they're not going to reach that unless something big happens. But if you do get on the upper end of the snow tomorrow here in Harrisburg, you'll certainly help on the snow deficit. But I don't know the exact number of what they've gotten, but no, not at all. Yeah. Yes, Matt. Sure, go ahead.
I've heard it said before that the sweet spot for central Pennsylvania is to pass right over the Delmarva Peninsula, and it seems like, based on the trends, that seems where it could be over or just south of the Delmarva, and that, per history's sake, would be about our sweet spot for central Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Let me first check. Do I have time to talk for a few more minutes? Okay. Can I look at the low placement on the refs on this website? Okay, because we can look at that and see what the exact placement here would be. So MSLP. Oh wait, let me back up a little bit because that's when the thing really starts to get going. One more forward. Okay. Yes. Yes, make an observation, Paul.
These colors right here indicate where the spread is. So what this tells me is that there are more members that are leaning to the northwest still and actually going inland over Philadelphia, as opposed to members leaning to the southeast. And to be perfectly honest, I have never seen a spread that colorful before on this model website.
From the former head of forecasting. And in case it's a little hard to see, what Paul was talking about is these colors just to the northwest of the low, and these darker reds and this brighter red here shows that there's a lot of model members that are still taking this thing northwest of where the mean is. And obviously, because southeast, you have more agreement there. But really, this bullseye here, I mean, if this thing trends any more northwest into that zone, as Matt and Paul, and as we were just talking about, State College really would be in the sweet spot to get some snow. And you also want to be, of course, slightly northwest of the 850 millibar low. I don't know if we can look at that here, but I think that at that point, everything's kind of going to be stacked together. Do we have 850 millibars on here? Maybe not. We do not, but oh, there it is. Okay, so yeah. What is the green? Is that moisture? 3 hour precipitation, yeah. So yeah, no, very good observation there from Paul. This thing is almost in an ideal position to give us a pretty hefty snowfall here. And you can really also see the colder values coming in behind it with -15 to -20 degree temperatures at 850 millibars. So, I mean, this thing kind of just came out of nowhere, and it's really gotten its act together in the last 24 hours. Alex.
Now it's kind of back here again, and more of the coastal solution.
Yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be more of just like a front. So yeah, like Tuesday we're supposed to, well, today is Tuesday, but we were modeled to warm up significantly today, and then Wednesday kind of to be the transition day. But I mean, it looked more of like rain just changing over to snow on its backside at first. We really didn't have like this cyclogenesis that we're really going to see tomorrow night and into early Thursday. And I mean, we haven't really seen something like this so far this winter. I mean, our snows have mostly come from clippers, and have we even had a major synoptic snow come up the coast like that yet? There was that one, yeah, that along the coast. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was earlier in the season, but this kind of setup we really haven't seen yet. I mean, I wish we could pull up some analogs here, but I mean, I think as everybody here mentioned, historically, I mean, if we just look at the pattern without looking at any data, it's supportive for a good snow. Is there anything else we could look at? It's 8:20, so I don't think any plumes might be coming out now, so we'll take a look at that. I refreshed, and now we're going to zoom in. This point is actually northwest of State College, so what? They're in? Oh, okay. Okay, so, I mean, we'll be able to see that shortly. That point is actually northwest of State College, so it is also possible that what that spits out is less than what would be predicted over State College, if you believe that precipitation is going to be heavier the further you go southeast. And then, of course, our NAM is going to be coming in here in the next hour, followed by the GFS by 11 o'clock, 11:30, and then the global models, the rest of the global models will start to come in towards midnight, 1 in the morning. So hopefully within the next few hours here, we'll be locked down on a solution, and that's when we can, hopefully the Weather Service could start putting out obviously more confident forecasts, and we could possibly, we'll obviously be making a snow map here at the Campus Weather Service by tonight. And it definitely tomorrow we'll be updating. Does anybody else have anything else to add? We've had some very good discussion here. I'm very happy with this. Obviously, there's a lot of data you can look at, and I'm sure we haven't covered all of it. If somebody does have anything that they saw that they want the rest of us to look at, speak up.
I just have a question. Is the precipitation of the snow, is that average or was that one model?
Which precipitation?
On the SRAM.
The first run where it was 24-hour precipitation, that's the mean. That's the average of all the numbers.
Okay.
That is an average right there. That's a 3-hour average.
The one that showed us getting 0.75.
That's an average also, yes.
Yep. So I guess if nobody else has anything to add, we'll wrap things up here. Again, a very lively discussion. Those of us here in Penn State Meteorology are right now very excited about this just because of the lack of snow we've had so far this season. So hopefully this will give us some opportunities to go play in the snow, maybe do a little sledding or skiing this weekend, maybe driving down to Evansburg, right, Matt? What's that? Yes. So in terms of very important point Alex made. Travel impacts. Obviously, Thursday morning commute is going to be affected by this. No doubt about it. I mean, this thing's still going to be falling. Snow's still going to be falling at 5, 6, 7 in the morning probably before it wraps up. So if you were tuning at home right now, I mean, anybody that has to be traveling Thursday morning, especially south of State College, east of State College, I mean, even if you're traveling down I-99 or east, 180 towards Harrisburg, taking Route 322, you really want to give yourself extra time. And I mean, if you don't have to travel, I wouldn't, because this thing, and I think I didn't emphasize this enough, that this thing is going to come down quick and heavy. The overall duration of the storm is maybe only going to be about 9 hours. And based on the numbers that these models are printing out, I mean, there's going to be some very heavy rates. And if anybody could back me up on this, would you say that we could see maybe 1 inch, possibly even 2 inch snowfall rates per hour at times during this event? 3, 4? Oh, thunder snow? Yeah, I didn't even think of thunder snow. I mean, when you get these kind of rates, I mean, obviously you get any elevated convection, any elevated cape, then you can really, you could even get thunder snow. But I feel like that would be more of a possibility towards the coast, maybe when that thing really starts to deepen. Paul has raised his hand again.
A storm that this kind of reminds me of, but not fully to a full extent, was a storm that impacted the Mid-Atlantic states late January 2011. And there was first kind of a wave of precipitation that came with the warm air advection. And then came the secondary kind of piece to that storm system, which actually resulted in a lot of thunder snow all across New Jersey into eastern Pennsylvania. And because the GFS is printing out such high precipitation rates for being the GFS, I would almost think that that's an indirect result of it kind of indicating that you could be dealing with some convective aspects to the storm.
And and just to add to that, we were looking at a sounding from the peak of the storm, and I was mentioning that the lower levels will certainly have a convective look to them. If I go back here real quick, 36 hours, is that during the peak of the storm here? Hopefully that'll show us. Yeah, I mean, steep level, low level lapse rates, and you even have more of like a almost like a moist adiabatic look to it above that. So we heavy enough. I mean, we'll see. It's certainly not out of the question with these kind of storms. I don't think we give enough attention to the western side of the state. I think of course, being from Pittsburgh, I can't help but mention my hometown. But what are we all thinking in terms of as you go west of State College, west of Johnstown? Are we looking at a gradient as you head off the Laurel Highlands towards Pittsburgh? I mean, I think I saw early forecasts in Pittsburgh, probably 1 to 3, and then higher, more like the 3 to 6 once you head up into the mountains, and then much further as you head north. Matt, you're talking.
I'd almost argue 1 to 3 isolated for 5.
Yeah.
I think, again, it's mesoscale features may up that.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on the banding. I mean, wherever the heaviest band sets up is where there will be locally higher amounts. But right now, it does look like points northwestern, probably third of the state, look to be in less favorable conditions to get the heavy snow and the real dendritic growth that we'll see here. Seth had a remark.
I think an interesting question would be what happens at the Mason-Dixon line and points in northern Maryland, not in Campus Weather Services domain per se, but that's where it looks like, generally speaking, where that freezing line is going to set up. So I think in terms of what is a more difficult question to answer is what's going to happen there in terms of snowfall. I think for Pittsburgh, I think 1 to 3 is a very safe bet there. But in terms of places that are right by the Mason-Dixon line, I think if for some reason the storm is even further northwest and you get more warm air to start off from the storm, it would be interesting to see how much snow they would get versus if it stops this trend northwest.
Yeah, especially initially when this thing starts to fall on and until it kicks out the colder air. Definitely the more south you go, more warm air you will run into, both at the surface and aloft too. Andrew, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. So, certainly any impacts, I mean, again, if you don't have to be out Thursday morning, especially Thursday afternoon across New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, I mean, don't. As you head towards western Pennsylvania, it looks like it will probably end towards the morning hours, before the morning hours. So any snow that has accumulated will probably have enough time to be cleaned up. So I think we cover now the whole Commonwealth. I wanted to just kind of throw them in before we finish things up. So, yeah, let's see if the plumes came in here. I think it really is that time where they should have. Well, let me refresh again. What the heck? Okay, that's what a plus sign on Google returns. Okay.
Yeah, we're still getting the 15 run there.
Sometime, okay. So hopefully soon we'll start to see them. Any funny stories? Not really today. Just battling a cold, trying to get through the semester. I mean, when you have distractions like this, that certainly doesn't help with homework. I think everybody else will agree with me. Yeah, life of a meteorology undergrad, absolutely. Okay, yeah, and of course we here at the Campus Weather Service will be tweeting out an official snow map this evening, right, Andy? Okay, so in the next few, that will be the first call on the storm, and of course tomorrow we will update it as new data comes in. But for those of you that are following us on Facebook and Twitter, look for that to come out in the next hour or two. We'll have our official snowfall forecast for this snow. I just really wish it would have come in right now. Because it usually does come in. Okay. We good then? All right. Well, I think we've talked enough here, and obviously stay tuned for more updates tomorrow here on Twitter and Facebook. I want to thank all of you for joining me here on this forecast discussion, and all of you at home who are tuning in. I know this is quite a long broadcast, but hopefully you all learned something and maybe a little more insight into this storm. So thank you all again, and have a good night.